In the world of movie news, one of the biggest issues, of course, has been the fact that movie theaters are closed down, production's been halted, all that kind of stuff. Now, we've been hearing lately about several high-profile projects being ready to go back into production. Just last week, we talked about how they said Avatar, this week, Avatar 2 is going back into production. The Batman is going back into production. A lot of movie production is starting to ramp up again. That has still left the question mark of the movie theaters. Well, the second largest movie theater operation in the world, Cineworld, which is the company that owns Regal in the United States. So Cineworld and all their theaters, Regal, have just announced that they are going to reopen in July. This word is coming to us from Variety, and it's just worth mentioning a couple of the notes here. So Cineworld, this includes Regal that they have, and it basically says this. It says the reopening of cinemas would start with the highly anticipated new Christopher Nolan movie Tenet and immediately after the Disney adventure movie Mulan. Cineworld outlined details of its funding because they also have had some financial problems, obviously. But going back to one of the earlier statements, in a statement to investors today, Cineworld says it anticipates government restrictions because they have been in consultation with the local governments. Government restrictions related to cinemas will be lifted in each of its territories by July. Subject to this and confirmation of the schedule for film releases, Cineworld anticipates the reopening of all their cinemas in July. This is, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is the news we've kind of been waiting for. Are the movie theaters going to be opening? We've been talking a lot about whether Christopher Nolan's Tenet, he wants to open that movie on the 17th in July. Warner Brothers wants to open it, but are they actually going to be able to? And it's starting to look more and more like they are. Now, we haven't heard any word from AMC Theaters yet, which is, of course, the largest exhibitor in the world. But we heard earlier reports saying that they were indeed targeting July. I expect to hear an official word from there in the coming days now that Cineworld and Regal have come out and made that proclamation. Aaron, I mean, again, the situation going on in the world is far bigger than our little world of movies. But here on the show, we're talking about how it affects our world of movies. There couldn't be bigger news. Like in the world of movies, the possible reopening, having the second biggest movie theater chain in the world saying we are going to reopen in July. I mean, that could change, obviously. There's a lot of time between now and July. Circumstances could change, but for now it sounds like they are targeting, they're going to reopen in July. They're going to be back open for when Tenet and Mulan and things like that are supposed to come out. We heard Bob Chapek, the new CEO of Disney, say a couple of weeks ago that they are holding that Mulan release date. But again, things could change. Aaron, putting into perspective, how big of a deal is this that the movie theater, the second biggest in the world, is now saying we are planning on reopening?
It's a huge deal. It is a really big deal because it's saying, you know what, we're ready. We believe that we have a system in place that can also ensure our guests will feel comfortable. You know, a lot of businesses are slowly starting to reopen. Restaurants or some restaurants are available for outdoor seating or like tables spaced apart from one another. I know that some retail stores are opening up again. And one of the things that I keep seeing in the emails of all the companies is, you know, these are the steps that we are taking to ensure your safety and your comfort. And no doubt with all the work that the movie theater, what is the organization that controls all the movie theaters? NATO. You know, NATO, I have no doubt, has been very instrumental in working with the theaters and saying these are things that need to be put in place, not just to protect our bottom line financially and making sure that people who go to the movie theaters can continue going to the movie theaters, but that people just feel comfortable. You want to go to the movie theater to escape what's going on out there.
Yeah, good point.
You don't want to go to the movie theater to be watching. Like, I don't want to watch, Mulan and the whole time be like, oh my God, somebody coughed. Oh my God, is that person too close to me? Oh my God. You know, I don't want to be a neurotic mess, which is usually par for the course anyway. But I don't want to carry that into my world of fantasy in the movie theater. So I'm looking forward not only to the movie theaters opening, but also to hearing what steps they're actually taking to ensure the safety and the comfort. I do think that it's interesting that they're opening all of their theaters.
Yeah.
It'll be more interesting to hear if there, are any differences in local areas. Because let's be honest, one of the reasons why there's so much divide about this whole situation is because it's affecting people differently. If you live in an area like we do in Los Angeles, which is still one of the top 3 areas for infections and deaths, it's much more of a frightening reality of contracting. Whereas if you live in a very rural area that has had very low cases, it's not as much of a reality. And this is based on my conversations with friends who live in areas like that. So, the same kind of stringent, strict guidelines that might make more sense in an area like New York, like Los Angeles, like DC and Chicago might not make sense in my hometown of Huntsville, Texas, my birth city of Lafayette, Louisiana, where the caseloads are not as high. So it'll be interesting to see if throughout the country there are variations of the guidelines.
And from country to country. Like
absolutely.
Because there are some countries that really seem to have a handle on this whole thing.
Yeah, New Zealand.
Yeah, and others. Now, you bring up an interesting point about we got to make sure that people feel comfortable in the theaters, right? And, one of the things Rob and I have been talking about is that look at the local grocery store. Because I personally feel like you're at higher risk going into a grocery store than you are into a movie theater. But because of the really good way a lot of the grocery stores have been conducting themselves, like you show up, they'll have lineups outside, making sure they have, it's only a maximum number of people inside. You see they have staff outside with Clorox, whatever, wiping down all the carts. They got a staff outside applying hand sanitizer to your hands, all that kind of stuff. So the bottom line is when I then walk into the grocery store, I actually feel pretty comfortable. I feel like I am as reasonably as you can. I feel like I'm being treated by the store itself, that I'm treated. And if movie theaters can replicate that, have maximum seating that you have, stagger the show times, stagger the seating of how far between, stuff like that, make ample hand sanitizer available. Like if they do that, if I can feel comfortable, and not everybody will, I'm just speaking for myself here, but if I can feel comfortable walking into a grocery store, seeing the precautions they're taking, I feel pretty good that I'm going to feel comfortable if movie theaters take the correct steps. And their futures depend on it. So I think greed is going to ensure that they take the right steps.
Greed usually is a very good promoter. It'll get somebody off the couch real quick.
Yeah, no, greed. Seriously, sometimes greed is our friend. And their greed, movie theaters' greed to want to be profitable and make money and be sufficient, is going to direct them. Their greed will make sure they take all sorts of safety precautions.
Right.
And so sometimes it's good to trust greed. The question here for you guys is, what do you think about this announcement from Cineworld and Regal and things like that they are planning now to reopen in July in time for Tenet and Mulan? Do you think it's actually going to happen? Do you think it's smart? Do you not think it's so smart? I can see a lot of different arguments on that. Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.